investors begin a class action lawsuit against none other than you guys. That's right. Drum roll, please. That's right. It is against Weedmaps. Yep. The lawsuit follows agreements by the company and former executives to pay fines regarding misleading statements. In September, the Green Market Report wrote that Weedmaps agreed to pay the Securities Exchange Commission, better known as the SEC, $1.5 million to settle claims about misleading investors on the company's metrics. The SEC charged that Weedmaps executives padded the user stats to bolster the company's apparent performance to investors. In a quote, Weedmaps technology misleadingly reported substantial and continued MAU growth and emphasized the strength and growth of its user base and its public filings and earnings calls, the SEC charged. These purportedly active users did not voluntarily seek out the Weedmaps technology site, and in most instances, they took no action whatsoever on the site despite the reported growth in MAU Weedmaps technologies. User engagement metrics were stagnant or declining, they say. The SEC said that the company's former CEO, Chris Beals, and former CFO, Arden Lee, both misled securities regulators and investors on the strength of its MAU members and the fact that the supposedly growing metric included supposed site visitors who were redirected to Weedmaps.com from pop-up ads on other websites. The SEC said. The day after the SEC announced that the company settled, it announced that Beals and Lee each agreed to pay a fine of $175,000. The complaint essentially repeated the same timeline that the SEC outlined when it announced its allegations, and the investors are adding other executives to the lawsuit beyond Beals and Lee. In addition to those executives, the investors have included executives from the Special Purpose Acquisition Corporation, Silver Spike, that brought Weedmaps public. Also named Douglas Francis, Executive Chair, Susan Eckard, Interim Chief Financial Officer, Mary Hoyt, Interim Chief Financial Officer of Weedmaps Technology from July 23 until approximately February of 2024, Scott Gordon, Chief Executive Officer of Silver Spike from its inception until the merger with Legacy Weedmaps, and William Healy, president of Silver Spike from its inception until the merger with Legacy Weedmaps, and Gregory M. Gentile, chief financial officer of Silver Spike from its inception until the merger with Legacy Weedmaps. As Weedmaps continues to deal with the fallout from the misdeeds of the previous management team, on October 11th, NASDAQ told the company its share price no longer met the minimum threshold of $1 to remain listed. As per protocol, Weedmaps has 180 days to get its share price back over $1, and if it can't accomplish this, the NASDAQ will give them another 180 days. The company warned investors that it might not be successful in getting the stock price higher within that 180 days. Weedmaps stock closed at 89 cents on Friday, down from its 52-week high of $1.47. And according to Simply Wall Street, a total of 25 investors have a majority stake in the company with 44% ownership. The article also stated that individual investors own 52% of the company. It also stated, and Morgan Stanley Investment Banking and Brokerage Investments is currently the largest shareholder with 6.2% of shares outstanding, and Douglas Francis is the second largest shareholder, owning 4.9% of common stock, and the Vanguard Group Incorporated holds about 4.6% of the company's stock, you guys. Well, man, big trouble for Weedmaps, it looks like, and man, what a blow, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
R.I.P.
I try to avoid getting involved in people lying and bullshitting to raise money, because they lie and bullshit to raise money. I've reviewed a few pitch decks, and some of them just cause me nausea. Because when you start asking questions, what do you base these things on? It goes well beyond puffing. And the SEC is no joke. They're as hard-hearted as a CDTFA. If you want to test and figure out, will someone kick your ass? Lie and get caught by the SEC. And then these investors who rely on this stuff, We're going to see more of this because people just don't always tell the truth. It goes well beyond puffing. It goes into absolute horse shit they're trying to sell people. And then when they come back and try to justify it, they just can't.
Yeah. I mean, and this, first of all, I mean, not that they haven't been a tech company forever, but getting caught lying about your monthly active users, they're officially a real tech company, because this happens all over Silicon Valley when people are raising capital. You've seen the popular HBO show Silicon Valley. There's an entire episode about how they use user farms in like Bangladesh or somewhere to juice up their numbers so it looks like they have more traffic. This is a very, very common issue. I was previously the head of investor relations for a publicly traded cannabis tech company. So we've dealt with this issue a lot. We were very specific about what terms we use. So we focus on the term registered user over monthly active user, just to make sure that we were not running afoul of, these rules and how you talk to investors.
What's the legal definition for a registered user versus an MA?
A registered user means that they have created an account on the application.
Actual profile.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Whether they log in a lot, basically to be an active user, they have to log in. So whether you're talking about daily active users or monthly active users or annual active users, they have to be logged in and doing something on the app. And
does it have to be an actual person? Because I know Elon Musk was crying about this when he was trying to back out of purchasing Twitter. And then now you go on Twitter.
And that was actually, if I recall, that was part of the basis of his claim. He was claiming that what they were talking about in terms of active users on the app was inflated because there were so many bots and whatever other fake profiles on there. So yeah, that's a very, very important thing too if you're in tech. But the other thing too here, if you're a public company, I don't know how far this will extend, but you need to have director and officer insurance exactly for situations like this.
In case you lie.
Yeah, I mean,
it may not be covered by insurance.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said, there's definitely a line of if you're committing fraud with your investors, and you're probably not going to have that covered. But either way, you should still have D&O insurance.
I mean, when's the last time we had a good story, like a positive story, like Weedmaps does something that doesn't suck? It's been quite a while, right? We had them snitching on people. We had snitch maps, right? Now we have just blatant investor fraud. Maybe it's time to hang it up. I think we can find dispensaries on our own. Google Maps has it.
Yeah, the other thing too is I wouldn't be surprised if, they said they need to get their share price back up to $1 to remain listed right on the NASDAQ. I wouldn't be surprised if once all these fines shake out, they let their price recalibrate a little bit and then probably do a reverse split on their shares to get it back above that dollar threshold. And you'll see people that have large share blocks are the ones that are going to get fucked over, and they might end up down the line see more lawsuits from shareholders over losing value due to doing a reverse split.
Yeah,
What bank is the largest shareholder at 6.2%? Who was that?
Hold on, let me go to that for you.
JP Morgan, I think, and then Vanguard.
That's fucking funny because they won't fund cannabis at all.
It's not JP Morgan.
Or Morgan Stanley.
Morgan Stanley Investment
Morgan
Banking
Stanley.
and
Definitely
Brokerage.
won't fund cannabis.
But
So that's funny because they're one of the companies that said if it's an ancillary company, if it touches cannabis at all, they won't touch it. So how are they the largest fucking shareholder at 6.2%?
It's probably a part of an index fund for sure. That's why Vanguard has 4% or whatever it is. It's part of one of their ETFs. One of their
I don't like it.
This is part of my presentation last week when I was in New Jersey. It was about data transparency, right? So even beyond the SEC investigation that's going on right now at Weedmaps, I would highly, highly, highly recommend, like as a data nerd, I've been in these stacks, like looking at these trends like since 2016 and working directly with retailers. When you guys are signing up for these cannabis technology companies, make sure that they are transparent with their data processes and you guys own your own data. One of the biggest feedback that I always get from folks when I ask them about Weedmaps, they always say that it's a necessary evil. Evil is not necessary. If you're paying thousands of dollars to have a pin put on onto a map, for every single one of your locations, you should get the data back showing that that is worth your investment. Continuing to pay companies that refuse to be transparent about their data processes or charge you to download your own data from their platforms, you might want to think to use some other methods of getting that information. right? So it's like, oh, yeah, this really works. I'm telling you, these are the numbers. Like, where do you get those numbers? Yeah, well, just trust us. Like, mainstream businesses
Weedmaps
don't
is
have
rough.
to do that.
These are like 5-figure invoices they're charging to retailers. Like, this is not like a cheap service.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So look into services, like not just Happy Cabbage. I don't want to be just a just a commercial over here, but make sure you guys are looking into services, because all of that data that they refuse to give back to you, it is in your POS. There are ways to access that information and actually see what you're really getting for your investment in Weedmaps, Leafly, any e-commerce widgets or plugins to your POS. There's ways of accessing that data, and that is leverage when it comes to negotiating your contracts or deciding whether you want to use these services.